as we edge ever so closely to the end of the 5th Global Conference on the Elimination of Child Labour, we thought that, we'd take you back and look at what have been the most salient points on this conference, particularly that have to do with the elimination of child labour. We've heard about the role of education. We've seen and also spoke to experts about issues such as social protection, the role of business and the financing and where it all could come from, all the money. It's been said in a concept note that was making rounds yesterday that there needs to be around $730 billion, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to design programs that will help eliminate programs, and that comes from the research by the ILO. But I have invited a representative from the ILO to take us back to Sunday when this conference started, and let's talk about what came out for them, what stood out. We know that tomorrow when it ends, there'll be a Durban call to action. This is a document that drafts the way forward. The previous one 5 years ago was from Argentina. What are we taking from that call to action to now? And from this call to action, what's the way forward? One of the biggest, obviously, problems is the fact that we may miss the targets, the SDG target, particularly SDG target number 8.7, which has to do with completely eradicating and eliminating child labour. Mr. Johnny Musubayana is with me, and he's going to give us a rundown of what has stood out for him and what's going to be happening after tomorrow. Mr. Musubayana, thank you so much for your time. Take us through the beginning of the conference. What really stood out for the ILO in terms of how this conference was conducted and what it meant to do?
I think let's start by acknowledging again that child labour had been declining until 2016, and that in 2016 we had 152 million children in child labour. Roll back to now, we're now at 160. We have increased by 8 million at a time when we should be decreasing so that we may edge towards the goal of elimination by 2025. And that's the context. And when we analyze again that 80% of the increase is in Africa, it was therefore Africa's conference, it was South Africa's conference, to make sure that we can zero in on what are the key drivers of the increase in child labour and what is it that we can do to undo this increase. So this conference has first looked at the drivers, and it's clear that increased poverty, the global economic downturn is a key driver. Families becoming hard up for cash and therefore resorting to bringing children into the labour market to complement family income. We have also seen the impact of COVID, because as the economies were closed, many people ran short of cash. They also resorted to increased child labour. So as we try to accelerate, upscale and push towards meeting the goal of 2025, the key 3 areas I want to highlight is again integrated policies, highlighting the importance of social protection, highlighting the importance of education, highlighting for the younger adults the importance of quality tertiary education, the role of business, not only to not support child labour, but also to be at the forefront of ensuring that their workforce is a workforce that does not work with child labour, because 80% of the children again are brought by family members, and therefore there has to be a good close engagement with the communities where these children are coming from. But this interrelatedness between education, social protection and business, and ensuring that government also comes up with food schemes. The food scheme in the schools is a particularly key one. The child support grant, these are measures we have had. They now need to be comprehensively packaged and upscaled. On the other side, however, we see that there is also a role for consumer activism. Consumer activism to say we will not buy products that are developed by children, and that I think is going to be a key issue. But the last issue I want to highlight, which has come here, which is probably fairly new, is that a key element of child labour has to do also with mental health, mental well-being, that young children are put in these difficult working situations and they end up themselves fairly stressed. And we are beginning to see high suicide rates of young people as an outcome of COVID. And that, I think, is also an issue that has been quite outstanding in this conference.
Yeah, I know that you do have to go to attend another session, but just one last question. We're expecting the Children's Forum later today, where the children themselves are going to be part of this. At what point, when this Durban call to action is being developed, are the voices of the children going to be included in this Durban call to action?
I think it's key to highlight, Yabo, that this is the first global conference where children themselves are brought into the conference. So that's a first. But they have made their voices heard very well. We all remember at the opening session that amazing speech by the young girl Tato Mhlungu, who directly talked to President Ramaphosa when she said, President, I've looked forward to saying my fellow South Africans. But they have made their voices heard, and I think going forward, they are now part of the drafting committee, and I think the trust has been said that going forward, they will continue to be part of co-creating the solutions to the challenges that they face.